I've finally given in and made an iceberg video to get YouTube to tolerate my presence. And what a good iceberg to start off with, as me and ARGs go way back. And from a quick look at this iceberg, I vaguely remember a lot of these from my childhood, but it's been a long while, so we'll get to refresh our memories together. And for the sake of having a bar in the bottom left of the screen, I'll be giving these entries a score of chair to chair based on how interesting or creepy they are. I'll also be skipping a few entries that don't necessarily fit the title of ARGs, or I'm just not really interested in covering them. Anyway, I really don't think this is your first iceberg video, so there's no need to explain. Let's get to it. And a link to the original iceberg will be in the description. So this section will comprise more of the obvious and well-known ARGs, which basically means we haven't exactly gotten to the point where I don't know any of these. Except for maybe one, but we'll get back to that. Follow along and let me know which ones you've never heard of before.
Marble Hornets.
Marble Hornets was a web show on ARG created by Troy Wagner, which follows the story of a whole cast of characters being tormented and harassed by arguably the most famous creepypasta character, Slender Man. Now, a while back I did begin to watch Marble Hornets, but it's a 9-hour long series, and my low attention span brain cannot handle the slow burner of a story that Marble Hornets is. But from the few hours I've seen, it's a perfectly enjoyable, if a little shittily acted series. Which isn't to say that the acting is god-awful or anything. I mean, from what I can tell, it's just a guy and his friends making the series, at least from the beginning, so you gotta give them props for the production quality of the series. But with that being said, I'm not all that interested in the base idea of Slender Man, so 4 chairs out of 10. Marble Hornets concluded on June 20th, 2014.
Petscop.
Now, Petscop is an ARG about a man finding an old video game and exploring its many secrets, and I had way more interest in Petscop throughout its run than Marble Hornets, as the idea of an old PS1 style game was frankly very refreshing at the time of its release. And it was, to say the least, really impressively done, and its story is shockingly rich, being something about overcoming abuse and tragedy, something along those lines. But unlike other concluded ARGs on this iceberg, Petscop still has quite a large thriving community due to the simple character designs for fan art and projects like GIFSCOP being an entire one-to-one recreation of the fictional video game presented on the channel. And it's beautiful how in one episode they can convey so much mystery by just the lack of the main character's voice, Pool. Another case of an ARG that shows no bound in its mystery rather than its horror. Petscop concluded on November 28th, 2019.
Local 58.
Local 58 is a fictional news network that gets consistent hijacks among other disturbing broadcasts made by the station, or by extraterrestrials, as Local 58 heavily plays into themes of malevolent creatures from other planets, bringing about apocalyptic scenarios and corrupting its TV network. Now, in all honesty, Local 58 is one of my favorite ARGs of all time, as it takes an interesting perspective and only gives us tiny amounts of info of the world via a news station, and I think that plays perfectly into the scary story they are trying to tell here. Along with creepy imagery, Local 58 has no bounds as to what might be shown in any specific airing of their network, so it adds another layer of fear factor waiting to see what kind of broadcast a new episode will convey. Top tier, 9 chairs out of 10. Local 58 is ongoing as of June 2023.
The Sun Vanished.
The Sun Vanished, or TSV, is a Twitter ARG page with a simple and engaging question. Where is the sun? Starting on April 2018, we follow TSV as he slowly ventures around his area, as all electricity and infrastructure collapses, leaving him to discover the new dangers of the world. And for this entry, I want to take a different approach, as I find the new creatures more interesting than the world and story itself, although those two aspects are still very enjoyable, albeit a little bit convoluted sometimes. But let's start off with discussing strobers and its variants shown throughout the series, as these mechanical creatures all have a flashing white light placed in the center of their face, and once it spots a person the lights turn red, and you'll presumably be made part of a hive mind of other zombified survivors who lay dormant until, similar to strobes, engage with humans if they sense them. And it isn't really known what fully happens to you after being attacked by one, as TSV was attacked and began hallucinating, while his arm began to become deformed with his veins turning black, but that plot point kinda got swept under the rug and forgotten about. Interesting, yet kinda convoluted. 6.5 chairs out of 10. TSV is an ongoing story as of June 2023.
Dad.
Dad or Dad Feels is a YouTube channel owned and hosted by a man called Nathan Barnett, who acts up a role of a father in an odd fake family setting. But in all honesty, the ARG aspect of Dad has been kind of lost, as he's more seen as an internet celebrity now, collaborating with a bunch of content creators and beating the shit out of Matt Watson in a boxing tournament. Not really an ARG anymore, so 0 out of 10 chairs. Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Finally, an ARG I'm not familiar with. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is an interactive Netflix experience released in December of 2018 about a programmer adapting a fictional book into a video game as the programmer begins to go kind of cuckoo. And what an interesting experience this is. Being one of the few Netflix interactive story series, it's a very unique approach to this kind of storytelling, allowing you to steer the story and how you see fit, despite how much it didn't work out for other companies. I'm glad interest continues in interactive experiences that aren't conventional video games. Alex Bale's SpongeBob Conspiracy. Okay, so this one is the most comprehensive and well put together ARG so far. Alex Bale's SpongeBob Theories, also known as Don't Feed the Muse, is a series about people's lives gaining success through these invasive tentacle creatures they feed called muses. Whether it's through SpongeBob theories or advice for certain industries, although Alex's muse slowly starts to hunger for more, as Alex attempts to rid his home of this creature, as the series ends up as a full-ass horror by the most recent episode, which harbors to Alex Bale's consistent passion of these spooky films and series, which we'll be seeing more of later on in the Iceberg. And I am sad to say that I didn't have enough time to watch through all the episodes, so I just had to skip to the parts that had actual plot relevance to the ARG. So I encourage you to go give the actual theories a watch and support Mr. Bale after you finish this video. An incredibly intriguing series, 8 out of 10 chairs. Don't Feed the Muse is set to end during 2023. And that is the end of our first layer of the iceberg, and with a few exceptions, it was a great start to this video. If you've enjoyed the video so far, why not consider subscribing? Thanks! But anyway, we have a lot more to get to, so let's do it. Catastrophe Crow. Catastrophe Crow is an ARG based around a fictional N64 developed game, and while the visuals and story are interesting, I was never really that invested into the atmosphere of Catastrophe Crow. But I appreciate Adam Butcher trying to tell his story through an N64 art style instead of a PS2 one like so many others. It really helps it to stand out a little more. However, the story is kind of generic, being a dead daughter story, but it takes some fun and interesting turns here and there, and similar to Petsculpt, Catastrophe Crow also has a community that cares enough to entirely recreate the game, which sounds way more difficult for a full-ass 3D N64 game, so there's clearly a lot of love for this series. And it's warranted, as even years before this ARG was started, he was posting fake N64 games in order to weave it into the main story of Catastrophe Crow, which shows how much love and dedication went into this one. Everyman Hybrid. Going into this one, I didn't know much about it, but I found this series to be quite similar to Marble Hornets, and by that I mean the exact fucking same premise. A group of teenagers are harassed by Slenderman, and whilst the acting seems significantly better in Everyman Hybrid, I'm gonna have to give this point to Marble Hornet, as they started first, and maybe I'm missing some extreme plot details or character moments that separate it from Marble Hornets, but I'm sorry, I don't have the time to take hours to watch each and every single long series on here, so I just try my best to get a general understanding of the plot and discuss what I do know. Besides, you never truly know everything about an ARG. That's what makes them so mysterious. Tribe 12. Yet another Slenderman series started a few months after Everyman Hybrid, and safe to say that Tribe 12 is superior to both Marble Hornets and Everyman Hybrid because the production design, editing, and scenes are fantastic, but sadly it is all dragged down a lot by the awful acting. It's the worst acting I've seen of a Slenderman ARG so far. So this series could have the coolest, most well put together scene of a cult sacrificing themselves to Slenderman, and it will have our main protagonist say shit like this.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? Is that the guy? Is that the guy?
Or something that no real human being would say.
Who sent you? Who sent you?
I don't know. This some Jesse guy?
No!
Like, come on, please do better. I can't take this shit seriously. Cypher Hunt. Ah, the Cypher Hunt. Now this is just the purest, best form of ARG. It was a worldwide manhunt to find the Bill Cipher statue that was hidden somewhere by Alex Hirsch. And it was great because it was organized by Alex and Alex alone, just to send off his love for his child of a series, as this Gravity Falls ARG took people to all sorts of corners of the earth, which included Russia, Japan, and the USA. This incredibly large list of places people have discovered clues at, which included things like golden stand heads, cryptexts, maps, a jar of eyeballs, and a massive 2,000-piece puzzle. Like, god damn. But after a mere few weeks, the ARG had concluded, as Shadow_Wolfwind on Twitter had found the statue, and the hunt was over. Daisy Brown. Daisy Brown is a childhood favorite of mine, being the story of a girl who was manipulated by her father and lived alone for her entire life with a creature named Alan. Now, Daisy Brown is nowhere near as deep as some of the other entries on this list. Rather, it's just a simple ARG with some interesting story turns. But at the end of the day, what more could we ask for? It's so suspenseful to slowly watch Alan grow and grow throughout the series as he begins to become more of a threat to Daisy's well-being, as well as killing a fucking cat. What the fuck? Hashtag justice for Strawberry. But no matter what aspect of the series you may or may not like, I want you all to give Daisy Brown a try because of this guy. I fucking love Lithop. They are just so adorable. He's so proud to be mostly real human DNA, and the fact that Daisy brings Lithop with her when she escapes in the final episode just melts my heart. It's adorable. And also the puppets look extremely impressive. Except for Alan in the final few episodes, he looks kind of goofy, but it doesn't really bother me at all, and it doesn't really affect the seriousness of the series. Daisy Brown ended in the summer of 2018. I Love Bees. I Love Bees was an ARG developed by 42 Entertainment for the release of Halo 2. I don't really have much more to say on this one as I don't really know anything about Halo. Lost Concern. This is the first ARG on this iceberg that I could not find any details about online. So if you know what the Lost Concern ARG is about, please comment under this video to tell me. But for now, it remains a mystery. Game Theory ARGs. This entry refers to the plethora of ARGs started by MatPat, some of which being infamous for their difficulty and hard to miss important details, and it's spanning across different media like video games, although MatPat has not created a new ARG for a very long time. Gunslinger Pro 2009. I was happy to find out that a new video had been uploaded just 2 days after I started writing this, because I adore the Gunslinger Pro ARG, as it was, from what I can tell, the first of its kind to do a Gmod ARG, and in my opinion it's the best one I've found so far, because the idea is just so interesting, as the defining factor that separates this from just another Recreating 2009 YouTube videos channel is that something's wrong with Gunslinger Pro's game. As you'll see, he'll go through a regular tutorial, as per usual, with this one being a perfect example, and then as he's showing off the finished walking controllers, the spy seems to bolt in the complete opposite direction of the scene, panicking Gunslinger. And that's it for this episode. That's the only creepy thing we get out of that single video. And that is exactly how this channel has captured people's attention, as so little is known about what's going on here. Hell, some of the videos are just regular ass tutorials on machinimas, but one thing's for sure, something's wrong with these ragdolls. PB here. PB here is one of the first TikTok ARGs I've seen, and what an amazing one to start off with, as this story really takes TikTok's easy community interaction for the story. Hell, commenters heavily affect the story and what the main character PB did, as he was a part of a line of bioclones that were designed for labor, and we follow the story of our main PB discovering where he is and how to get out. Overall, it was a very simple but extremely enjoyable ARG. 7 shares out of 10. Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 is arguably the most infamous entry in this entire iceberg, as no one quite knows the full extent of this ARG. In January of 2012, an untraceable user noted how he was looking for the smartest and brightest people for an unknown reason, and in order to gather those people, he opened a new puzzle each year from 2012 to 2013, with the 2014 puzzle still unsolved to this day. Now, there are many theories people can throw around with this one, like how it's a recruitment program for the CIA or FBI or whatever, when for sure they have thousands of applications for those exact jobs people on the dark web would have. Sadly, I don't think we'll ever get anywhere with this one, as it's been a decade and that third puzzle still remains unsolved. I Am Sophie. I Am Sophie, or as the channel is now bluntly known as Algorithm, is a kind of obvious commentary on people's desperations to look like a god online, and the need to have all the attention and growth on themselves, as Sophie slowly gets consumed by her prestigious and self-righteous actions. And there's most likely more to this, but I'm not even gonna pretend to fully understand the meaning behind everything in I Am Sophie, as it can get a little complicated despite how upfront it is about its message. But I wanted to zoom in on how fucking awesome the hate mask is. Like, look how good that looks, oh my god. But with how convincing all of this is at first glance, even having a merch store that will be forever sold out. But hey, since it's on topic for this entry, why don't you like and subscribe and hit that bell and tag a friend and join the Discord server and follow me on Twitch and subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Poppy. Poppy is a perfect case of an ARG growing too big and too franchised, as in the beginning it was these eerie and unsettling videos of completely random and absurd things, but then as she grew in popularity she began to franchise her name, even getting a YouTube Red short movie. But nowadays the channel is mostly exclusively used for her music and songs, and you know what? Good for her. She may have abandoned the ARG and creepy aspect, but she's successful and doing what she loves, and who am I to complain about that? Rust_010. So shockingly, this entry isn't about the game Rust, thankfully. It's actually about a Roblox user called Rust_010 who would stalk the Roblox YouTuber Flamingo in-game with his main and alt accounts, and some speculate even stalk him in real life. Although I find that kind of hard to believe with Flamingo's dumb gaming YouTuber reaction to someone actually supposedly following him. So I'm gonna say it was staged, but here, have a look for yourself.
Pulled up right next to me. Let me just, hi. Somebody just pulled up next to me. I'm driving away now. They're following me now. This is not scripted. They're following me at this very moment. They're literally following me. And I'm having a panic attack right now. I don't know if you guys can see it, but those people, look, if you can look behind me, they're following me.
2020 Vision. 2020 Vision is a YouTube account with thousands of unlisted videos of dates and the names of celebrities. And if you can't tell already, this account is trying to trick people into thinking it predicted famous deaths, such as Kobe Bryant. But really, it's just a smart ploy no one has thought about yet. OWO. OWO is an ARG creator about some kind of corrupt government agency, but what I'm more interested in is about how OWO managed to gain popularity for his ARG, as it was extremely unique and still is to this day, as he only has 3 main videos, but he's also posted hundreds of comments, all of which somehow getting top comment on nearly every video he's posted on. Although, sadly, OWO's channel was deleted, as YouTube suspected it was a bot account, which presumably it wasn't, as all the comments read like a normal comment. And since then, OWO has created a new account, but it hasn't gained anywhere near the subscribers and viewerships the old channel did. And I'm sad to say I don't believe this ARG will be continued. And that is it for the tippity top of the iceberg. Now we begin to approach the core of this iceberg. This is the point of no return, as we lower ourselves into the mysteries this iceberg holds. Wilbur Soot. The Wilbur Soot ARG was started in 2018, when Jack Sucks at Life, a former Minecraft YouTuber who dedicated a small series to allowing new editors to edit his videos for him, and to see what wacky things they would add in. One of those editors was Wilbur Soot, the famous Twitch streamer, playing up a character for his editor's segments. And I remember keeping up with the beginning of this ARG and it being an interesting new approach to this kind of storytelling. However, the ARG and clues became progressively harder and harder to solve, to the point where even 5 years after it was originally started, no definitive answer has been solved as to what's really going on here. But as of today, my research hasn't concluded much, and Wilbur Soot even stated that he made the ARG too difficult and frustrating to solve. So who knows if this will ever be truly solved. Lasagna Cat. Now, Lasagna Cat is way older than I thought, because I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, you know, it was probably started around 2013, something like that. But I went to go check the page and oh my goodness,
Squidward!
Lasagna Cat is like 15 years old. God damn, it's ancient. But in all honesty, this is probably the weirdest one so far on the list. We started with live action recreations of Garfield comic strips to things I cannot even show on YouTube, to a fucking sex survey of hundreds of people calling in to say their name and how many partners they've had, which goes on for 4 whole hours. And don't forget the 40 minutes and 52 seconds. Their parent company, Fatal Farm, seems to be doing well, as they mostly major in commercials, which is big money. Classic GM videos. Classic GM videos is a kind of formula definer for the Gmod ARGs, and I'm not trying to discredit it at all. What this one gets right that the others don't have is subtlety. Sure, you'll get video glitches and creepy figures in the distance, but I don't see other Gmod ARGs pulling shit like this. The fact that the thruster noise isn't directly in front of him sets him off, and I just think that's genius. I've genuinely never seen something like this use the spatial audio feature to convey how something's off. And like a shit ton of his videos are just regular ass Gmod videos. It's not overdone. With that kind of creativity, this one's going somewhere. Alan Tutorial. Alan Tutorial's a schizophrenic episode disguised as an ARG. But all jokes aside, I don't really know what to tell you about this one. The only way to describe it is a man's descent into madness, but hell, it was an entertaining one if I've ever seen it. I've never been so overjoyed to watch someone cry over a fallen chair, but obviously none of this is real. It was an art project helmed by the same person who helped to make unedited footage of a bear and this house's people in it, which you'll see later on in this layer of the iceberg. But for me personally, the story was kind of incomprehensible. But like, who cares? It was a fun little thing to work on. Also, I thought this YouTube comment was funny. Bob is Mad. So, from what I can understand, Bob is Mad was an ARG about a man who was obsessed with an AI he made called Bob. where he began to fantasize about Bob being real, and so he began to try and give Bob a real-life human host. And now that sounds all well and good, like a regular standard run-of-the-mill ARG, but I only after found out the ARG was for a Friday Night Funkin' mod. But it seemed to be one of the most credible Friday Night Funkin' ARGs yet, so it's too bad it's defunct at this point, as the devs basically cancelled it due to it taking a big toll on their mental health. And besides, it was a joke ARG anyway. Portal 1 ARG. This ARG began on March 10th, 2010, when Portal 1 was updated for the first time, adding Morse code and images to the radio scattered around Portal 1. And in these images there were more codes, a little codeception if you'll please give me that shitty joke, and these further codes led to a BBS number, which for you cool kids out there was a way of connecting online before the internet. And I also didn't know that, by the way. And this BBS number would lead you to a terminal that had all sorts of secret art and teasers for Valve's next game, Portal 2. It didn't amount to too much, but it was a neat little ARG for advertising Portal 2. Unedited footage of a bear / this house's people in it. Well, we're doing a twofer with this one as it was created by roughly the same people, but we'll go one at a time here with unedited footage of a bear. But it's a really upsetting look at how drugs can affect yourself and the people around you, more specifically family in this case, and it's a really batshit video that's constantly throwing a new weird idea or imagery in your face. Now, this house's people in it is just weird, like really weird, but as long as you're using your big wrinkly brain, you can generally understand what's happening here. As we start off with a family getting ready to have a birthday party for the nasty middle child, with the oldest just kind of lying down on the floor as they talk about her like she's not there. She then begins to sink through the floor, and hijinks ensues as all the guests also lay down on the floor. But there's just a lot going on here generally, but from my interpretation, aka the highest YouTube comment at the time, I believe this video is trying to communicate how toxic the nature of this household is, with the oldest drifting away from her family, the youngest being lost in everything, and the middle child just kind of chilling in his bedroom playing Fortnite. And the acting in this short film is just wow. There was one specific line that just brought me to tears as the father's trying to fix everything after it was too late.
Jackson, this is not a good time to have a birthday party. Okay, I'm sorry. I really wanted you to have a good birthday.
And after all that word vomit, you think this one is fully understood, right? Wrong, because what the fuck is the Sonic the Hedgehog? Like, god damn. The Monument Mythos. Okay, so for the sake of my time and sanity, I'll only cover the first season of the Monument Mythos because it's the only thing I'm familiar with and it gives you room to interpret the second season yourself and to check it out after you finish watching this video. But anyway, the Monument Mythos follows two universes, one being dubbed the Nixon-verse and the other one being dubbed the Dean-verse. And to my knowledge, the Nixon-verse is our universe, where Richard Nixon was elected president, and the Dean-verse is where James Dean was elected president. Now, the Nixon-verse seems to be pretty similar to our own from what I know, but the Dean-verse has some major safety issues, like, oh, you know, Lovecraftian creatures being hidden inside national monuments and wonders of the world. Hell, the fucking statue sitting above the White House has skinned many people. And there was a fucking crab thing. I don't know, there's so much to cover here. And I haven't even covered special trees at all, which are these weird interdimensional trees that like bend over and shoot lightning and shit. I don't know, it's so complicated. But look, it's a really good series and I highly recommend it. Cat Ghost. Now this one's art style is just adorable and it's multi-medium, having both a game and a series about Elon and Nara. And to be honest, ignoring all the creepy ARG shit, it's actually a really funny and enjoyable TV series, with Gideon of course being my favorite character, and his clone that he had for a few episodes was voiced by fucking Moist Critical. That's just insanely funny.
Could you please pass the salt, Gideon? Of course. I'd do anything for you, Gideon.
But I don't understand how an ARG with such a compelling story can be so goddamn funny.
I like what she did with the mashed potatoes. They're, not really mashed. They're just kind of potatoes.
Not to mention the fantastic music choices and animation. Look at this background! Look at it! Fantastic series that I once again recommend you go support after you're done watching this video. Found on tape. On this Iceberg, this one is considered ongoing, but it might as well be defunct as the uploader of these cryptic videos hasn't uploaded since the third one for similar reasons to Cicada 3301. Because no one has figured out how to continue the story since 2011. But what we do have right now is, well, not much. We have some starting pieces of the puzzle, but right now most of it seems to be unintelligible nonsense. But a few Half-Life 2 maps were found, which sadly also didn't lead us anywhere. So for this tier only, I won't be giving it a rating due to how incomplete and empty it is. Inscription. Woo boy, this is a big one, so get comfortable. So, before I begin blabbering about the actual ARG itself, I just wanted to give credit to the actual game because it is just fantastic and I had a blast when I streamed it live on Twitch. You should follow me. But this ARG took much longer to research than any other, as it has so many winding turns and ciphers, and it's just all over the place, but really well put together. And all of these codes and ciphers start off with us just finishing Act 1 of Inscription. As you enter into the real game behind the safety wall of Leshy's cabin, you can click Ctrl-C and type in this command prompt. And if we type SD space old_data, which has been hinted at us throughout the game, we get sent down a rabbit hole of different ciphers you find by many different means, some even being from Game Jam games created in 2014, and the original Inscription prototype. But it ends us off with a story of a malicious virus called the Knoffel code, which was discovered on Hitler's body. Yes, that Hitler. And after the Russians in this universe recovered those cards, and a small group of people successfully snuck this extraordinarily dangerous file out of Moscow and into the States with a woman named Casey, who works at Game Funa, and who was tasked to develop a game to hide whatever this old_data could really do. But as she was developing Inscription, the Act 2 pixel art version of Inscription, the 4 scribes of this game began to show traits that were not originally programmed in, most likely caused by the Knoffel code inside of old_data. With one wanting to release the power of old data into the world, another wanting to delete everything she can of Inscription to get rid of the state of self-awareness, and a third motives not being known. And the fourth just wanting to play a card game in a perpetual loop. And luckily, all in all, the best outcome occurred as Leshy gained control, and it stopped anyone from playing the game and allowing the other scribes to eventually harm the safety net put around the old_data, as new players would be trapped in Leshy's cabin, unable to access the real game. And so Casey buried the game in the forest and was soon killed by Game Funa to tie up any loose ends. And our main protagonist finds a set of coordinates in a pack of trading cards and finds Inscription. Now, there are a lot of questions left unanswered here, like what does the Knoffel code really do except for make virtual entities self-aware? Why was it on Hitler's body? And why the fuck were the coordinates in a pack of trading cards? But for what we do get, it's incredibly well told, and it's almost as fun and groundbreaking as the game itself. And that finally wraps up layer 3 of this iceberg, where now we enter into the halfway mark and into more ARGs. Teletubbies Update. Teletubbies Update is a story of an unstable family that's split between 2 Twitter accounts, one being the iconic Teletubbies Update and the other one being Sharon Teletubby, although sadly both accounts have since been suspended, so I can only pick up the story from old YouTube videos discussing it, as any other Twitter pages similar seem to be game jackers. But from what I can gather, it revolved around David Hutchinson and Sharon Hutchinson, a couple who, after a very abusive relationship, got into a divorce, and we begin to find out through both Dave and Sharon's tweets that he murdered not only their daughter Katie, their son, Sharon, and Sharon's parents, and supposedly himself. But we'll find out soon that that wasn't the case, as Sharon's account, now controlled by the US CPD, report that Dave had somehow survived and is still a danger to everyone in the area. And that's all I could really pick up from this ARG. But even from what I gathered, it seemed to be a pretty flawed story, but hey, I still enjoyed it. Clear Lake 44. So instead of talking about this ARG, I thought I'd discuss everything around the ARG instead. As Clear Lake 44 is the first case of a game-jacking series being on this iceberg. Now, you may remember me mentioning this word before, so to explain it, a game jacker is basically when someone attempts to unofficially add to a story that isn't theirs, and poses as if it is canonical to the real story. And what Clear Lake 44 is game jack is none other than Marble Hornets, but obviously you shouldn't latch on to other people's stories, so it will soon shut down. Ekva. Okay, now this is a good one, and a spiritual successor to Marble Hornets. This ARG is about a guy who finds a signal to a now defunct broadcasting station he used to work at, and he set it up where whatever signal is received will be automatically uploaded to YouTube. But it keeps breaking, and the first time it breaks, he finds a pill and a letter. The second time it breaks, he finds something much worse. But to take a step back, this is how our main dude Hawkins gets corrupted by this network. Whether it be a metaphor for addiction or just a really cool story, I think that has a lot of potential to go somewhere. And even though it hasn't posted since May of last year, I'm hoping that this one comes back. Poochie/Pansy. Okay, so this one's a little odd, as the original saga of Poochie/Pansies just seems like generic 2010s ARG bullshit, with flashy creepy images and not a whole lot of cohesive story that I couldn't really piece together. But I knew it was there, and now it's recently gotten revived, maybe? With channels like Gangadil and websites like Dream Axion connected to it, it was just all over the place, and to be honest, the tonal whiplash was fucking crazy. It went from this to this.
Wanna help me stop LSS?
It's whatever, let's move on. Badwater Videos 2009. Badwater Videos is very similar to Gunslinger Pro, as it's based around the idea of Gmod ragdolls and models gaining sentience. And I was originally going to talk about it and just say it was the same as Gunslinger Pro, but more TF2, but holy shit, I finished watching it and wow. Without throwing any shade on Gunslinger Pro, Badwater's videos take this idea to a much higher level, and it's genuinely fucking awesome. The main two differences in these two's content is the fact that Gunslinger seems to be kind of oblivious to the sentience, whereas Badwater consistently abuses these creatures, even torturing one countless times for a reason that we'll get into. And production quality, because some of these animations and scenes make it feel like a cinematic experience, such as the scene where one scout walks up to what remains of a scout who is trying to hide from the player. He grabs the remover gun, looks away, and because of the mercy killing that the scout had done, he was then stabbed, impaled, shot, and even hung, while this player remarks how all these punishments will never be enough. God, what a fucking insane ARG. And it's still posting to this day, so please check it out after this video. Gmod 9 fan. From what I can tell, Gmod 9 fan is just a more shitty versions of the other ARGs, where ragdolls become alive again due to shenanigans, and it's now fucking with the player. There's not really much interesting in this one, and I also think it may be defunct now, as the only video I can find of it are re-uploads. John Teeter. John Teeter was a man who in the year 2000 claimed to be a time traveler in a time travel forum page. He claimed to be from the year 2036, and he really detailed the accounts of how this time machine worked, which you can go do your own research on, as I'm not gonna try and explain time travel to you. But practically all of the predictions he made were false, and like, come on, if it was really a time traveler, you know his ass had got better things to do than talk about random people in a forum post. As for the supposed reason as to why he was here, he was making a little pit stop before going to 1975 to collect an IBM 5100 computer, which is the only thing that can resolve the virus issue in the year 2036. But this guy hasn't been seen anywhere since the 2000s, so I'm gonna have to say this one's concluded. Lost Media Archives, SpongeBoy Ahoy. I'd really love to talk about something interesting here, but this is just yet another ARG that's just been completely abandoned, with the original channel nowhere to be found and a revival project that hasn't uploaded in 2 years. So I guess you could say that this one is dead in the water. Woo! Post content. Post content is in all honesty the most well-produced, well-written, well-edited, and well-thought-out series I've seen here yet, as we follow our content creator who refers to himself as Post. And Post is a content creator who is haunted by these beautiful looking props, who are here for some subliminal reason I couldn't decipher. But fuck me, this show is as scary as it is funny. I can't tell you how many times this series has made me audibly laugh, while also having me cowering behind my shark plushie I named Jeffrey Ben Joffrey. It's truly the work of a madman, but good lord, it is something to behold. Please check this series out. It's an amazing miracle of content. Afterbirth ARG. Okay, so this one's pretty sick, and it involves an entire community of Isaac players banding together to unlock the Keeper as a playable character. And this involved solving binary codes and Steam achievements to calling an actual phone number of a missing poster of my cute little guy Isaac, which then led people to find this awesome little figurine thing that I need in my life, and that would lead everyone to a Twitter account, which Schizo posted until, boom, the boy has been unlocked. Fun little ARG by the devs that brought the community together. Hey P-Brain, you teleport? So picture this, it's mid-2018 and you're just minding your own business on tumblr.com, when all of a sudden you get a DM from Sexy Girl Max 2019. You're a lucky break, right? Except it starts asking you if you can teleport and calling you a P-Brain. A little bit odd, but what's really happening here isn't some strapping young lady interested in chatting with you. It's what seems to be a porn bot that just tries to infect your computer with any virus they can, but this one isn't doing that. Instead, it seems to be sending you to a weird website with strange cryptic text and some links that also seem to link to a fictional disease called Enrix, which from what I've heard is another entire different ARG, and to be completely clear, this one is fucking terrifying, and moving past the nightmare fuel, there are a lot of religious implications on the other websites, and what seems to be a 15-year-old's Tumblr page, but as we can easily tell in some of the videos, this account is in fact involved in the ARG. And it's all extremely interesting, and in the case of Enric's website, quite disturbing. Junko Junsi. So this one seems like a complex one of a company who have genetically developed the 3X chromosomed human woman, or a Junsi, as a lot of history's greatest women are theorized to be 3X chromosomed. But this whole ARG started with someone mass friending people on Facebook in the early 2000s. But soon after all this, all the information and advertisement by the company was taken down, and the company had seemingly been brought out by none other than the Russian government, who had taken all the company's research too. And they started to develop their own Junsi women, training them, brainwashing them, and locking them away from the outside world. They were being weaponized, until our main Junsi, Rhea, found an iPad and gained access to the internet, and now she's spreading the freedom of the outside world. And the story really spirals from there, but the real draw in looking back on this ARG is how many people, even months into the ARG, weren't sure whether it was an ARG or a real situation. And I know now looking back at it, it sounds a little dumb to believe this, but it was so convincing at the time of the game. It was incredible, really. And later in 2014, the creators came out and discussed the game in far more depth. After those gut-twisting turns and tribulations, we have made it halfway through the iceberg. And because of how long this project is taking, I've decided to split this baby into 2 separate juicy videos for you all to enjoy. So while you're waiting for the next installment in the ARG Iceberg, I recommend you head over to my Twitch, where we do the sillies all the time. But as for me, I'll see you all in 9 months, okay? Bye!